And can I have a motion for minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then new and previous matters, previous matters for consideration, our 2020 budget. Who would like to start?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Grill.
We gave the presentation on October 21st, I believe, and the committee wanted some time to look over and have questions. We've been contacted by some committee members and other council members, so I think it's probably a good idea to open it up for questions and clarifications first.
Sure, sounds good to me. Any questions from the committee or alderpersons in the audience?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman May.
I'd like to start out with the position of municipal judge was shown as a 1.0 FTE. Looking at past budgets, it's always been a 0.75. What is the reason for making it 1.0?
I believe that was at the request of the judge.
And so my understanding is if you make it 1.0, that if a person wanted to run for the position and have a private practice, they would no longer be able to do so because it's a full FTE, whereas Kale. Is that right?
Under the ethics rules, a judge can only practice law if they are a part-time judge. So defining as a full-time judge would likely make that no longer part-time for the ethics code reasons.
Okay. So the answer was if it's a 1.0 FTE, he cannot have private practice. Okay. Now, that may not impact our current municipal judge, but should anyone in the future want to run for the position, we'd want to keep the position desirable enough where they could have a private practice. I don't think going to 1.0 FTE is the proper thing to do on that, and I'm curious to know what others on the committee think. I would think the highest we'd want to go is a 0.9 FTE, so that in the future, if someone did want to run for that position and still have their own private practice, they could do so. Is 0.9 considered part-time?
So the statute or the ethics code that talks about this just simply says no judge may have a private practice. There's an exception saying you can have it if you're part-time, which is undefined.
Okay.
So the best thing I can do is, as long as the city's not classifying it as full-time, then that would be the strongest argument that it's not full-time. So less than 1.0 full-time equivalent categorized and never described as full-time within the city's policies or code or anything like that, that seems to be a way to do it. And just clarify for the record, no matter what the judge would decide to do, it wouldn't impact the city necessarily as far as any code violations. That's a separate decision the judge has to make. This is just about creating a position that you believe is marketable and desirable for candidates for that position.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on that. I don't understand why it went to 1.0 if it was been 0.75 this whole time.
Yeah, and Alderman May, I think in general, I don't think we're going to be voting on any amendments or anything right now. I think we'll have discussion points at this point and put amendments forward more formally at a later date. I certainly am not prepared to vote on something that we just heard about just now. We need to discuss it further.
Yeah, and I wasn't hoping to make any amendments tonight either. I was just curious to know why it changed. I don't fully understand why, but then there was a couple other things in the budget that concerned me. I'll just run through a list of a few things. The police department, our police officers, we're going to hold 2 off until August of 2020 in hiring to save $106,000. 2 fewer community service officers. When I read through it, it looked like we're underfunding officer training, uniform, safety equipment, and the outfitting of the squads. Fire department, we're not funding 3 firefighters, and there's no vehicle replacement for the fire department included. Department of Public Works, this one shocked me. No capital funding for the Department of Public Works. In years past, it averages about $500,000. 4 positions that we have in here are going to be unfunded. And then the communications budget looks like it goes bankrupt in 2021, based on how the fund is constantly going down, which means it's going to be something, if we don't take care of, it's going to have to be wrapped into the general fund in the future. Other concerns I see, we have digital mobile technology expansion. I don't know what that means. I saw that each mobile device for the elder persons is $19 a month to run. Some of the other departments are running up to $40 a month. So I'd be curious, I don't know, Tony, if you have any idea of what that means? Yeah, if you could, if that's all right with the chair.
Sure.
Yep. It's his committee. I just ask a lot of questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tony Workacheski, Director of the IT Department. Traditionally, most of the investments in the budget for IT equipment has been in the form of desktop computers. And we've had a 5-year replacement cycle. In recent years, we've been trying to shift our focus away from less desktops because more of the jobs are becoming mobile in the community. And so we've been shifting to use that money to buy more mobile devices instead of desktops. And so between Public Works, who's getting a software package called AssetWorks, in which many more members of the Public Works Department will be taking iPads out in the field and recording their work there instead of on paper. Similarly, in the engineering department, when engineers are on a job site doing inspections of their work, it's much more efficient for them to do that on a mobile device. All those mobile devices need data connectivity to the internet. Thus, you get into data plans with Verizon, and that's kind of where the costs come in. So it is highlighted as a bit of an extra expense, but it's kind of coming at the cost of less money for the desktop PCs and shifting those monies into the more mobile
So
devices.
it's trading costs.
More or less.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
No residential revaluation, if I understand correctly, is included in the budget. We didn't have the funds for it. And it looks like there's going to be a heavy dependence on debt next year and into the future. Any capital expenses for DPW, I can't imagine there would be 0 capital expense for DPW in 2020, which means there's going to have to be some bonding for that. Plus the street lighting, plus discussions of a city hall, possible DPW. I don't know if we can afford all this. Then it said no funding for a structural deficit action team, but I thought that was one of the greatest ideas the mayor had in here. I'd like to see that go forward.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, please.
It's mainly a committee to discuss the ideas and make recommendations to the council, so committee doesn't necessarily cost any
Okay.
money.
So it
The
can still
ideas
possibly
that
go
might
forward.
go forward could cost some money in the short term, but the idea would be to save money in the long term, so I don't know exactly what the ideas would be. I have 5 pages of them so far, but we'll see. So the actual committee would not cost, maybe some water for the committee members. I don't know. I can bring that.
I guess how did we get to this point?
I think we tried to explain how things went from last year to this year. Each year we had some type of very large cost-saving event, and we just didn't have anything this year that combined with increases for as part of for employees represented and non-represented. It all just came together this year.
It's sort of a wake-up call.
Yes.
In short. I have some ideas to save money too, but I'd be curious to see what other issues. So I'll suck all the air out of it.
Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
Just a point of clarification on those unfunded positions. Those are positions that have all been previously left open anyways? Is that, or we're not laying anybody off specifically. These were just positions that were, nobody's in them right now.
Correct. We try to minimize the impact on any existing employees, so there's no, aside from one error that I made with a neighborhood specialist, I forget what her title is, where she went
That's
from
a
.75,
part-time,
yeah,
yeah.
to a .50. The rest of those are vacant. Some of them have been vacant longer than others. Peggy just gave me the sheet last year at this time. For the 2019 budget, we had 53 vacant positions. This year, we have 36 going in. So that's another reason why everything is tighter. I believe there's 14 positions, 16 where hiring is in progress, and then we have 15 that are held to see where things are gonna be. So, for example, you mentioned the police positions. I believe there's been 3 vacant for a few months, and last year in the budget, we had actually taken out, was it 100,000 out of the patrol budget? We shorted that budget. We just probably called it out a little differently this year than we did that for police, fire, and the library, I believe, last year, to meet the expenditure restraint.
Yep, that would be.
Probably more than,
And then, if I could, please, the revaluation question. How does a residential reevaluation affect what we get under the expenditure restraint program? No effect whatsoever.
No impact.
It's just a matter of how we spread the money around, spread the taxes around. It's not like we revalue, oh, suddenly the valuations come in significantly higher. That doesn't raise our levy limit.
It does not raise our levy limit or expenditure restraint. Those are money. You can spend X more than your budget this year, or you can raise X more than your
The only
levy.
thing that does go up under that is new development. Changes that?
Correct, under the levy limit.
Under the levy.
Mr. Chair. Just a little bit more on the reval. The $170,000 is an estimate based on the money we spent with the commercial reval per month, $28,000. And this is just the first part of it. It likely would take 3 or 3.5 years, so possibly more than $1 million to actually complete the whole revaluation. Jason sent, on Friday, he sent the numbers regarding the residential properties. I believe we're at 92.13%, and we have to be between 90 and 110. So we're still within that amount.
And this would be something that we're just delaying. Essentially, we're gonna have to do it sometime.
If we go below 90, we will have to do it. So sometimes it's better to do it when you're choosing to do it versus when someone's telling you to do it.
Sure.
Sure.
Alderman Chakleski.
I have a lot of the same concerns that Alderman May has, but one of the things that I saw that we had, the mayor's office, administration, IT, clerk's office, promotion and celebrations, police, fire, development, bins, were all over their budget last year, of last year's budget. And then I'm looking at items that they've budgeted in here for this year, is below what they budgeted in the years past. So what I'm seeing here is that it looks like, are people's making things below budget, and they're gonna come back somewhere during the year and ask for more money, or just go over budget like in here? I mean,
Are you
there's-
speaking to the individual accounts or the bottom line of their budget? Because we've been getting stricter on where people are
Individual
actually
account,
looking.
just by going through, many things, like the, fire department's overtime. They have, budgeted 300,000, well, we got stats back to 17, they've never even been close to being near 300,000, or matter of fact, they're all over 400,000. So are they gonna be able to keep, stay in there? And, the, chief said was, the main reason was, the amount of people that they have to have there every day,
The
which I
minimum
think is something
staffing.
needs to look into. Having concerns about the public works, not having, where they consistently have been spending about $500,000, and now there's nothing. Where's that going? I know that, in this for carryovers, which I don't know if that's a good way of budgeting, depending on our carryovers to pay for various items. But, it is in the carryovers, if the carryovers are there. All these things are if. Question for Peggy on this, with the police now not hiring until August, did we figure all those months of health insurance coming in?
We did
Payments?
not.
You didn't do that here, so. Okay, good. I mean,
Yeah,
we
we
talked
pulled-
about
yeah, we
trouble
pulled
we
those
ran
out.
into before, and so,
That's one of the items listed, though.
pardon me?
I believe that's one of the items listed to put back in.
Oh, it's a number one item on here, which is, I think it has to be. I don't think there's any question. But it's like, if the money, all these go down as far as there's money in the carryovers. And then, I just, in looking at all little details and things, it's just, there's just so many things in here that are, either I don't understand, or you didn't spend all your money in training and travel, but yet you're asking for more money, for the training and travel in certain ones. And why is it? Why don't you just utilize what you have, instead of asking for more? I think we need to find some money to get those police officers hired earlier, or get more money to Public Works. Because I think there's a lot of spots here that are gonna be hurting this year. So somewhere along the line, it's gonna come back and kick us. And I don't think anybody can deny that we're kinda hanging out there. And the other thing question, the number 2 thing that we have to is fire department debt payment. What is that from?
So that one is something we actually wanted to pay in 2018, and unfortunately, fire was over by like 102,000, and we couldn't do it, and we had to carry it to this year, hoping that we have carryover for it. So that was a payment that was budgeted in the fire department because of some recently purchased equipment, and we were not able to do it in 18, so we pushed it to 19. But I do want to mention one other thing about this. There's a number of things that we can't add to next year's, like carryover funds can't be used for 2020 budget items because that would go over expenditure restraint. So that's a hard number. That's not, there's no options on that. You can have all the money you want in the world, but expenditure restraint program is what's your expenditure growth. And if your expenditure growth is higher than, in this case, 2.3% or 1.455 million, we will lose that 1.5 million. So any carryover funds should really just be used for one-time, perhaps capital expenditures, or yet in 2019.
So we could use it for the Public Works?
Capital
Is
equipment,
that-
yes.
As long as it's new equipment?
to?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Alderman May.
I have some things that I'd like to possibly discuss as possible cuts or measures in here. And I'm gonna start right away with the elder persons. I've got a ordinance on tonight to revise the health and dental. It won't impact any of the existing elder people who take the insurance, but anyone in the future would not be eligible for health and dental premium share costs. That would save us about $17,100. Our conferences and seminars budget for some reason is up $3,400. I would suggest we cut that back to the 2019 numbers. I'm just gonna make a list and send it out to you. National League of Cities, we have a National League of Cities membership, but I can't think of anything we have gotten for it as older people, other than an email maybe once a month, say, with some information. That's another $3,400. My understanding is the Public Works Committee, each member of that committee has a American Public Works Association membership. If we cut out 5 of those, that'd save us another $975. Some other things that I noticed in there that possibly would help save some money is the fire department. $6,000 that was budgeted in here was already spent with 2019 dollars, so that'd be a $6,000 difference there. I've got a fire department false alarm fee on there tonight that the fire department estimates will bring in approximately $36,000 in revenue. Hopefully that would help. I wonder if we should eliminate our Aurora Hospital donation. That was something new that we started probably 3 or 4 years ago, but before that we never made contributions to Aurora. That would be a possible cut there. Our extended expenditure restraint limit, I believe, is actually about $55,000 more than
Correct.
if you subtract, but you'd have to take out the revenue for the $36,000 from the fire department. So basically, we could add another $19,000 to capacity beyond the $36,000, right?
You could add 55,000 in expenditures.
Total expense. Okay.
And
so
then to
whether
not
it
make the
comes from the
tax
false
rate
alarm fee or
change,
comes from
right.
some- Yeah.
To not make the tax rate change, then you would want additional revenues to match that.
Okay. The poll worker scheduling software, $10,260, and Steve, thanks for sending me an email today. Why couldn't we have a member of the clerk's office help do all the scheduling and calling people for the
We
next year?
certainly can. One of the things is, I believe this takes up a significant amount of time for existing staff members. Some of the options for the future might be looking at moving around staffing or reallocating or doing some things with staffing. So in the past few years, we've been getting technology in place to make sure that we can utilize that instead of rehiring people for those things. So that would be one of the things that's why we have that in there.
The neighborhood specialist position in years past was 0.5 FTE. It was paid 0.75 this last year.
Correct.
Maybe we should keep it at 0.5 again going forward. Depends on where people want to spend their money, right? I was wondering, police department asset forfeiture, can we use that to buy squads and things like that?
At times we can use it to buy squads, yes. We try to limit that to one-time purchases because we can't supplant anything that would have normally been budgeted for under the federal rules on that.
Okay. And then the solid waste fund, for DPW, can we use that to buy a new garbage truck?
I looked into that because that's one of the questions you had asked me, and I think that is not allowed because that is one of the restricted services that was put in place by the legislature in 2012. So I don't think we're going to be able to do that because we wouldn't get a benefit from it. It's something we normally pay for in our budget. If we subtract it from our budget, we also have to subtract it from our levy.
Okay. So in the end, it doesn't
help us.
doesn't do anything.
Correct.
So the solid waste fund is just gonna keep growing by $500,000 a year, but you can't use it to spend on capital like that?
Recycling, I think we use it for tipping fees, recycling, staff, and recycling vehicles.
Wow. If we wanted to make one-time garbage cart purchases for everyone in the city? Could use it for that, maybe?
It's actually spending out of our budget right now, so that would
Can't do
again be
anything.
one of the restricted services.
Okay. Bins, and Ed, I had asked you this before as well. With the vehicles that you have, you still have $3,500 budgeted for mileage. should we stop using vehicles or cut the mileage? You don't have to answer that right now. Other things, you know, in the future, we're gonna wanna looking at possibly selling the senior center and using Village Manor Park or the library. That's $250,000 in our budget. There's a lot in here. And funding those police officers I'd like to do in January. So these are just some possible ideas I'm gonna throw out there, and maybe I'll put them in a list and send them out to everyone.
Can I just make one comment on?
Sure.
So I think we need to be really careful with all those positions that are on hold right now and adding them back. I'm not saying they're not needed.
Which-
However,
the police?
police, fire,
Yeah.
public works, any of them. You have to remember, we got to expenditure restraint max this year by having, I think it was 14 positions on hold. So if we put them back in, what we will do is put us more behind the 8 ball when it comes to balancing for expenditure restraint. We don't have anything different as far as police raises go next year. We're still looking at 3%. And fire, we're looking at least 2%. And those two things alone are very close to hitting our expenditure restraint max. So I guess my recommendation from a financial perspective would be hold off on adding those back until we get the structural deficit team in place and we start figuring out ways that we're gonna change services. Because if we don't change services between now and next budget, it'll make this budget look like no problem at all. So we really need to start focusing on changing the way we're doing service delivery in order to make another budget. And if tomorrow wasn't gonna come, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd say, yeah, find the money and do it. But right now, what we have to remember is those all pile on top of each other, and they increase when we have a 3% pay increase. So just something to keep in mind as we're going through that process.
And how long is that police contract open till?
This is year 2, I believe, so
Is it 2-year or 3-year cycles?
it's a
I
3.
believe it runs through 2021, doesn't it?
21.
Okay, so it's a 3-year.
So this is only year 1, yes. But that's a big chunk of money that we just have to really be cognizant of.
This is tough, I mean, I hand it to you, it's a tough budget.
Alderman Chabusky.
You know, you may be looking at these things saying, oh, it's only $1,000 here, it's only, you know, $2,000 there and everything, but it adds up, and because of the way the budget is, we're gonna be needing that money, or we should be using that money now, maybe towards other things, which is gonna run into other problems, but, I think that we need, everything that he mentioned, we need to look at that, do we need to do that? You know, do we?
For sure, and I hope you didn't
Right.
get that from what I said. I just
No, I'm
said,
saying
be careful about adding things
Right.
back that we're
I
not getting rid of
understand that,
things,
I'm
but
saying-
certainly.
I'm just saying that, you know, people look at that, well, you're only saving 1,000 here, 1,000 there. We start adding that up, that will add up, and everything is so tight. I think that we need every $1,000, every $900. I mean, there's a lot of things that people wanted that they're not in there. And if we go into, our overtime in some of these departments start going crazy, where are we coming up with the money for that? And so I think that we shouldn't just, you know, go off what Mike's saying here. We should look at every single savings that we can get in here. We should go through the budget. Everybody should go through the budget, find every savings they can without hurting, you know, everybody's particular budget, so. Not saying that the mayor hasn't gone through it close enough, but.
Mayor Devine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've heard the timing of the hiring of the police department staff mentioned a couple times and couldn't help but notice the deputy chief is sitting behind me. I don't know how many of you have asked him, but I did talk to the chief about this and he was very confident that he could work with this hiring timeline. It was not gonna impact the coverage of patrols in the city. I don't know if you can speak for him or.
Yeah. So when we found out that that the city was in overall not the greatest budget shape, and Rebecca asked the department heads to look at stuff, we looked at what we could do internally to try to come up with our, some cuts in our budget. And working with Rebecca, this was something that wasn't her suggestion, it was something that we decided as a management team of the police department. On any given year, I think since I've been in a command staff position for almost 10 years now, we've always had at least 2-3 3. Sometimes we even run more openings during a year. And it's something that we felt that we could hold off to making those hirings until August or so, and that the person on the street's not going to notice a difference in the service that they're going to see from our officers. There's not going to be any changes in response times or anything like that. So it was something that we felt that we could do to give back, and we're comfortable with holding off on those particular hirings until that point.
And I think Rebecca had said earlier, we're currently down 3.
Correct.
Right now, so it's, and as I'm sure you've all seen the trends from the partnership meetings, I mean, the numbers are going in the right direction this year in a lot of the categories with our current staffing levels, so I think it's something that's very much on my radar. I wouldn't do anything, I wouldn't propose things in this realm if I thought it was gonna impact public safety.
So I just have one more piece of feedback on that. So when we talk about the staffing levels, that all makes sense, but what we have to remember is prior to 2 years ago, a lot of our departmental budgets weren't over budget regularly. And now that's becoming more of a thing. So we really have to be careful. Again, one of my biggest concerns is, yes, there's a lot of cuts in there, and yes, everybody's agreed to them, but we really have to make sure we live within them, because next year, there's no limit. We don't, if police overtime needs to go over more, we don't have an option to do that without cutting something else out of the budget. So the recent trend the last couple of years, when we have had a number of budgets going over their budget allotment, it becomes tighter and tighter. And if we get to a point where all these positions are filled and overall as a city we're over budget, yes, we have fund balance, but we don't have expenditure restraint capacity. So that $1.5 million is still at risk.
And I did talk to the chief as well about this. He said, yeah, I wouldn't want to make it a long-term thing, but thanks for the year, we could make it work. And I don't think you're putting the city's safety at harm by not having it there. That being said, I find it troubling the amount of incidents that we're seeing, more so in my own district, where I think if we had some more police out on patrol, it might help. Just having them driving through neighborhoods and watching things. We had the Amazon delivery driver. We had Officer Kendall injured off 92nd Street. We had a drug incident on 87th and Maple. Just a lot of things going on, and I know the police department you're working hard, and I don't think there's anything malicious being done here in the budget. I think a budget document says a lot about our priorities, and I'm just really concerned about having those patrol officers and the safety in our community. So I do think the police are doing a good job overall, though. I mean, the T-Mobile thing that recently came up, and Wonky's been trying to chase the guy through 3 incidents, and West Allis caught him when it happened here. So, yeah, I don't think there's any malicious intent or anything on behalf of the mayor's proposed budget. I think the police department can live with it, but I'd like to see more patrols, and I think this might afford it by having these positions in place earlier.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I just wanted to follow up on Alderman Chapletzky's statement about every little bit adds up, and I think all of you got the packet that had the additional budget information, and on pages 4, 5, and 6, you will see how every little bit adds up. There's 3 pages of things that we went through the whole budget with all of the departments. Some of them are $500, some of them are $50,000, so we did a lot of work in going through each and every line item and adding that up, and then we got to the budget gap of the almost $3.5 million. So it does add up quite quickly. So I just wanted to make that comment.
All right, anything further before we move on to the next item on the agenda? Yes.
Are we gonna do amendments in between? Are we gonna, for staff, we would need to know so we can calculate things and put things together. We don't have enough staff here to have like 10 people in the back taking the expenditures and the revenues. So I know you're not making any decisions, but we would need to know at some point, what amendments would be made. I don't know if that's something that,
Just want to know the ones that are possible, or
yeah, I had talked to the chair about possibly having a meeting after the public hearing next week. That would be a time where you maybe discuss, but the following week is budget adoption. So, usually you would probably want to have a heads up as committee members and council members when you're gonna vote on them. So I guess I'm just looking for some feedback into what you want us to put together as part of a decision package for you for next week. I have your list here. I don't know if there's any other items that anyone has that we can do that. I don't.
Yeah, Alderman May, would you be comfortable with staff putting together, the one big amendment? And
yeah,
can
we
discuss
can always
it
just cross
on
out what we
line
as a
item.
committee.
I mean, line item it, okay. And
It doesn't
we-
make sense to do one at a time. That's
No,
yeah.
right, and we can meet on Tuesday after our budget public hearing and specifically address those.
Mhm.
You say Tuesday recess?
Tuesday, next week
Oh, next
after our
week,
public
okay.
hearings.
Oh, okay.
So, Mr. Chair,
So we'd have an additional meeting of the ANF committee.
it sounds like from staff, getting those 2 police officers earlier, as much as I'd like to do it, might be harmful to future budgets. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, just think it's not in there now, so if 2 police officers get added, let's just say you move them to January, and that's 2 more 100,000. So not only do we have to have the 200,000, but we have to have the 3% on the 200,000. That would be part of our 1.4. So now our expenditure restraint, if it's the same next year as it is now we only have 1.2 to work with instead of 1.4. So
Is anyone retiring this year in the police department?
can't really ask that, so let's not go there.
Oh, man. I mean, I think we'd want to have an idea then where people would want that to go. Would it just be cut off the top, or people want it to go to DPW capital? Do we want to? Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Alderman Chablisky.
Did you come up with a total? Did you add up how much would be saved at all, or? I don't know.
well, I've got quite a bit here. I don't know.
Oh, you didn't add it
It's
up.
well over 100,000 if I got everything, but I don't know if everyone's
Well,
going
do
to
we have to
support
put
everything.
it, do we have to put it anywhere? Can we just leave it in the general fund for if we need something, because,
I have another recommendation.
Yes, go ahead, Peggy.
We don't have really a lot in the general fund for contingency of break-fix things, so that would be super important to me to get something in there, because again, if we have a chiller that breaks and we need to pay $10,000, it's either gonna be cut something else or don't fix it next year.
I think that's a good thing, to do, simply because,
And it would also give council flexibility, if you decided you wanted to use that contingency for something next year, you already have it into the budget, you would just need to identify specifically what you wanna use it for. So you could certainly do that.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
one quick question. On this page 7 of this most recent thing, you have a list of items prioritized. Do you want us to prioritize this? I mean, this is this isn't, most important, least important in this list, is it? It is. So it is, so that health insurance contribution for vacancies, that's our number 1 priority, you're feeling?
So the way that works, if I could just tell you about it a little bit, we budget in our health insurance fund, and I think this is what Alderman Shpleski was referring to before. We budget in our health insurance fund for so many positions in the general fund, and then that flows through the payroll account, the benefit accounts, into the health insurance fund. Well, when we have all those vacancies, those health insurance premiums from the city don't go into the health insurance fund. So our health insurance fund has been shorted. So what this would do is this would kind of cover for the 2019 vacancies, if you will, throughout the year that we didn't make those contributions. It will be a problem in future years too, but I would say it's probably not the highest priority as far as things getting done. I mean, the health insurance fund is very important, and we certainly don't want to rob that, but when it comes to providing a service or not, I would say this would be something that we should try to use carryover funds for, rather than budgeted dollars.
Oh, I see, this is for
Yes, so this is
carryover.
all three. So we could go through and identify which,
What would be best to be
Yeah.
used from the additional capacity point of view?
Alderman Chubesky.
But this only goes as far as how much money we have. We don't know how much money we're gonna have yet, so we don't know where the line is gonna be put through here.
Right, I understand
Yeah.
that. Somewhere as you go
The
down.
first two lines.
Hopefully down here, but,
Yeah, hopefully get down,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's, yeah, I mean, the first two lines are $425,000.
All right, anything else on the budget before we move on to the capital improvement program? All right, then moving on to item 3 on our agenda, the 2020-2024 capital improvement program. Peggy, I think this one's for you. If you like.
doesn't
Rebecca?
matter, Rebecca can start. Sure.
Okay.
You have the final draft before you that the committee put together. There are, I think the biggest thing of note is there are several items that the committee has recommended that the council look towards bonding for, which we previously did not do bonding. You will find them on very small page number 6. Actually 5 and 6. So, you see the gray column on the right side, that's the recommendation for other bonding. It starts with Emerald Ash Borer, then Boulevard Landscape, playground improvements, repairs from the playground inspection, $150,000 for Fire Station 3 HVAC, Health Department facility maintenance, library facility maintenance or improvements. The walls are somewhat coming down there that we need to look at. So that's page 5, and then on page 6, there is, this is where you get more into the equipment for public works, so the concrete saw, and then the police department electronic parking citations. This goes along with kind of what I discussed with the poll worker scheduling software. Then there's a security camera replacement, Office 365 expansion, electronic poll books. So the recommendation of the capital improvement committee was to fund those with other bonding. We started the 2020 capital with, what, $37 million in requests. A lot of it was delayed for future years or prioritized out of the capital. Don't know if you want to go through line by line. There's the streets. It's set up the way that it has been every year. So you have the streets and then street related, then things related to the stormwater, water utilities. Sidewalk, park improvements. There's a lot of public property improvements that we have on hold for the subcommittee and for, decisions regarding the Public Works facility, City Hall, and things like that. And the street lighting, which, yes, that could be anywhere between what, 1.2 and 1.8 million, depending upon, whether we use internal or external staff. So, I don't know if anyone has any specific ideas. I think, this is the first time you're actually seeing the full, plan in print. So I don't know if that would be better. If people wanna send us questions in between now and next Tuesday, they have them. Unless you can identify them.
Is there a number that we have to get down to?
Well, for the streets, there's the, we did recommend the increase, but it's still a matter of, do we have the staff to actually put together the work, and then the capacity for our bonding, and paying back the debt payments, that's the bigger challenge, because we have to fit that in our
Yeah, so
expenditures.
debt's free from expenditure restraint and levy limits. It's obviously needs to be paid back through the tax levy. So that's the real, it's gonna be the will to increase taxes to pay the new debt payments off.
We expect interest rates to stay about where they are. I guess no one has a crystal ball, but, right?
Depends if you think there's gonna be a
It'll be
recession
cut
next
down.
year.
Yeah.
Rumor has it there might be, that could help rates. Usually when,
Where are they gonna go, to zero?
I don't know if they can go much further.
Not that much.
They just went down another quarter.
we keep saying they can't go lower and they keep going lower, so there's projections out there that if there's another recession, we will see a little bit lower rates. Of course, the spreads are getting tighter and tighter, but they're sitting at a good place right now. We're gonna be talking about the borrowing a little bit later, and the rates we're expecting are pretty decent right now, so better than they have been all year.
And a recession would help with costs too, 'cause construction costs might stay. I won't say
Usually it
they'll go
helps
down.
with labor, usually it helps with a lot of things in our sector.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Mason.
With the 1.8 for the low-pressure sodium bulb replacements, I think we really gotta get moving on that if we're gonna keep up. Well, we're already behind, keep up with the
We're actually
projection
not
of going
behind.
dark.
We're actually not behind. We got a lot done this year. 212? We have 212 of them done this year, and the study was not expecting any to be done, so we're
So it
doing a
buys
good
us 1 year?
job.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll take the 1 year.
And we got it done at a very low cost, so.
Has there been any discussion with the capital improvement committee about doing any sort of lighting utility?
There has not, but that's kind of something I've been putting together. I mean, even, we talk about, are we gonna do this internally, or are we gonna do this with a contractor? I know they're gonna be talking about it at Public Works tonight, and did everybody get copies of that on the council? So everybody has copies of what all the bids came in for all the street contracts, as well as the F1 the one circuit contract. And today we were able to pull all the rest of the costs together for how much it costs to do F1 internally. So my concern in the past was I don't want to borrow for labor. So again, to your question about the street lighting utility, all that work we did last year really could perhaps come in handy on that, because that could be something we could do while we're doing this conversion project, and it would be something that could end at the end of, the 13 years for the high voltage, low sodium, and then go on to the high voltage, high sodium, and you could use it from that perspective. So I do think that would probably be the best decision if we were gonna go about that, is to do some kind of a utility, just so we don't have to borrow yet more money on top of what's being recommended here.
So the projects for this year that are already you're already moving forward to 1.8 isn't needed for any of those?
The ones for 2019?
2020.
2020 are not included yet. So the numbers I heard from Engineering and Public Works today were about 800,000 if we did it internally. Is that
Your
true?
numbers were lower.
Right, I mean, our actual numbers were lower, but the estimates that we were talking about were 800 if we did it internally, perhaps 2 to 2+ times more if we do it with a contractor. Of course, we have to have the staffing to do that and the capacity for them to do that and not have them doing other things.
I imagine with the year starting in January and then construction season starting around Easter, so April 1st, let's say, that we would need a decision, and moving forward by April 1st, you're going to need a decision quickly.
Well, at the next council meeting, I'm gonna have a proposal from the consultant to start designing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're gonna start designing it so that we'll have something to bid or do internally by April.
Okay.
So the
So
decision
then-
doesn't have to happen at the next one?
Right.
You just have to decide that you want to get it designed and have the plans ready. The decision would have to come in the coming months then.
And would the mayor's deficit action team be in charge of figuring that out, or who's figuring out what to do with the utility? I mean, I imagine you want some direction from council. Public Works Committee making that decision, or
That would be up to the
I
council.
think it's up to
Yes.
us.
A&F or Public Works?
Probably both.
Could be joint,
Yeah.
yes.
Should be.
Yes.
If we're gonna create a new utility, I think everybody should have a voice, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Vitale.
the discussions about the fact of hiring a contractor to do the lighting throughout the city, by hiring, say, a private contractor, to me, it's of course absurd, really, because it's not a project that will be lasting only a year. We're talking about maybe it will take about 10 years to do all this work. So the fact is, I mean, I felt from the beginning, I think we should do that in housing, that's to me would be more costly effective, and we have control more who's doing the work, within our staff and within Public Works. To me, that's the only easy way. I think it's, like I hear, it's more cheaper to do that in housing. So that's one thing I feel about it. And then I'd like to mention the fact of, I did praise the last meeting that we had with the capital improvement programs, that Chief Puller, I had to praise him because he initially proposed to purchase a fire engine, which was over $670,000. And then all of a sudden, he astonished me, he says, well, not right now. He says, I changed my mind, I put it on hold. So I praise him. Actually, I clapped my hands on him.
My pleasure.
It's right there. That's all I have.
All right, is there any further discussion on our capital improvement program? All right, so I think we know where we're going, we just need to do some more work and get something together. All right. And then item 4 is a communication from the city administrator regarding the general guidelines and framework for administering the pilot program for utilizing retirees for provisional fill-in work in Public Works and providing incentives. Ms. Brill.
It's actually a communication from myself and Dave Webking, the Director of Public Works. We had talked about this a few weeks ago at one of the Administration and Finance Committee meetings, and we put together a document which outlines the program. We're trying to have qualified personnel supplement our existing staff with snow events and other provisional work that we needed. So the guidelines are outlined here. We didn't lay out each specific step, but the high-level things are listed because it is a pilot program, so we might need to make some adjustments to how we're implementing it as it goes along. So we're recommending that it go on throughout the year 2020, that the duties would include preparation of streets for weather event, plowing streets, salting, other storm cleanup, and spring and fall mowing for the retirees. The limitation, they wouldn't work more than 39 hours a week. If they work more than that, we would be subject to overtime. Not more than 560 hours per year, and they would not be eligible for benefits. In addition, the qualifications would be that they have to have a CDL, they're 18, they have experience driving plows, and for the retirees that they have been retired for at least 3 months from the Department of Public Works, and they retired in good standing. The compensation, we have it outlined at $21.15 per hour for snow events, which is the first step for truck drivers, and then other work would be equivalent to the lowest step of the job they would be performing. In addition to the compensation, they would also be eligible for a quarterly $500 reduction for their required premium share for the health care. And in order to get that, they have to work a minimum of 144 hours per quarter, which equals about 3 12-hour shifts per month or 6 8-hour shifts per month. And then if someone works 288 in one quarter, they would get 6 months of the credit. There's some examples listed here. If this is successful, we would probably want to expand it to other departments and other duties. We thought it would be good to start it with Public Works, especially with the snow season. We didn't anticipate it was gonna come last week, but we'll hopefully be ready for the 2020 event. So I don't know if anyone has any additional questions or comments.
And I'll just, before we go, I'm gonna start talking first. And it just it seems like a great idea to me, and the important thing being that it's a pilot program. If we don't like it, we can discontinue it. If we do like it, we can continue it. That's great. And Alderman Chableski.
Yeah, did you say that they're gonna be eligible for health insurance?
These would be retirees that are currently on our health insurance
okay,
plan.
okay.
So they would get this credit. So it's beneficial to us. We get qualified people, and then they, in addition to compensation, they get some credit, which you said it was equivalent to like $3 an hour.
$3.47 per hour is basically
So-
the premium that we'd be paying. And then we don't have WRS to pay and health insurance to pay and those kind of things. So it's a pretty minimal trade-off for that.
Okay. Besides that, I think it's a good idea.
Great.
We're gonna have retiree alderman coming back?
I would drive a snowplow.
They have a CDL, right?
I'd go along.
All right, do you need any action from our committee? Do we get to take a vote on this?
I think just a consensus that we
Consensus
should
is
go
good?
forward with.
Okay, very good, you got it.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
then is there anything else to properly come before the committee? Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
In a second? I second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks.
No, I meant come back as alderman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the November 5th meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote. Here. Stefanski.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak. Here. Shaplesky. Here. And Haas.
Here.
10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the pledge, which will be led by Alderman Lysick.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to item D on our agendas. We have 4 items before us for public hearing this evening. We are going to be taking items 1 and 2 together, and then we will take 3 and 4 together after that. So I will ask the clerk to read out items number 1 and 2.
Resolution relative to determination of application for a special use permit for the Lapham. Proposed restaurant to be located at 1603 South 81st Street with commercial parking to be located at 1603 South 81st Street, 1600 block of South 82nd Street, and the 1600 block of South 81st Street, and the associated combination Class B alcohol license.
Thank you. Mr. Sean Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a proposal for an adaptive reuse of it was a former funeral home where there was a fire 7-8 years ago, and the site has sat vacant ever since. The location is on 81st and Lapham. It's the proposed conversion to a restaurant with a rooftop patio. It's a near $1.2 million project. Would accommodate seating for up to 154 people. And hours of operation during the week would be 11 to midnight, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 2, and then Sunday, 10 to 9. The zoning of the properties are all C2 neighborhood commercial district, which allows for restaurant and outdoor dining as a special use. This slide just shows the 81st Street corridor is currently all zoned C2 neighborhood commercial district. You can kind of see generally where this property sits in that 81st Street corridor between, it acts as sort of a connector between National and Greenfield Avenues. The city did undertake what was called the National Avenue Corridor Plan a few years back, and 81st Street was noted as a key connector as part of that plan. It was actually included in the plan, in the National Ave plan, this corridor was picked as an important corridor to try to find ways to rehabilitate old sites that might be underutilized and amongst many other things. So you can kind of see where this property sits within that corridor. The proposal is for a restaurant called the Lapham, and it's being the applicant is from the Bass Bay Brew House in Muskego. They've been operating. This group has been running the Bass Bay Brew House for about 4 years and have done very well there. And they want to kind of carry that vision forward to this property. They want to do kind of an American comfort food style, vintage feel inside, unique space, has high ceilings and very unique and ornate space inside. They want it to be a local gathering spot for neighbors as well as event space for up to 25 to 50 people. Generally the menu is just going to be traditional, American comfort food, sandwiches, chicken, steak, things of that nature, similar to what they have at the Bass Bay location. Floor plans, building has near 15,000 square feet, split amongst the 2 floors, about 8,500 square feet on the base floor, and then about 4,500 square feet on the second floor with the rooftop dining, as well as catering out of the basement at about 5,000 square feet. And the rooftop dining is planned to be completely screened from view. You can see the slide on the picture on the right shows the rooftop dining shaded, and you can see how far pulled back it is from the actual roof line of the building. So it will sort of sit back from the adjacent residential. This is just a view of the 3 different properties involved in this proposal. There's 2 parking lots, which total 33 parking stalls. 2 parking lots in addition to the parking that's immediately adjacent to the building itself. All totaled 33 stalls. 80 stalls are required. Obviously, this site has sat vacant for years, but when it was operating at full capacity as a funeral home, had a similar sort of use and parking need at the time. And so it's one of those things that we run into on a lot of our east side properties, where if we want to get them revitalized and reused, we need to look at creative ways to do that. As far as the style, the architectural style, it has a very interesting, kind of Spanish style. It was built in 1924, and this proposal would sort of restore that look. Punching in a few new windows on the east side of the property. Do hand troweled stucco to sort of match that Spanish style look that's currently on the building. Add some decorative lighting. And you can kind of see the sort of ornate look of the rails around the rooftop dining and such. The general project schedule is they're looking to close on the property next week on November 12th. Construction scheduled to take place through the winter into the summer, and then the hope is for a fall opening in 2020. Plan Commission has recommended approval at the October 23rd meeting. We did receive one written letter of concern. It was generally about cars pulling out into the alley. Certainly, perhaps some signage and curbing to encourage cars that are exiting the site to turn right out onto Lapham is likely in order. So. It's a very valid concern to try to keep traffic out of the residential portion of the alley if possible. We also are doing number 2 as part of this. That was an item to exceed a request to exceed the liquor license. The city's local quota is at 120. We currently are sitting at 119, and then the state quota is 147. So it can fit into that. It's just a note, I guess, that if this is approved and the liquor license has to go forward, that there may be a need to exceed the quota, as there are other proposals as well which could take it over the 120 mark once this application goes in. So I'd be happy to take any questions, comments, concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for the presentation. Are there any questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Weigel?
Sean, just a couple quick questions. Did I miss the total number of employees? I think I read 35.
35. Okay.
And you said the building has been sitting empty for several years. Did you say since the fire?
It's vacant since the fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if this applicant doesn't buy it, doesn't get approved, what do you think the likely future of that building would be? Sit empty another couple of years, and then what would be the other potential reuses if not this?
Right. It's hard to say. It could be, the C2 category allows for, many different types of neighborhood commercial uses. It's obviously been for sale for many years.
Yeah, apparently the price was too much for somebody who, say, maybe wanted to put a daycare in or something like,
Right.
And the applicant has an experienced, successful business they're running in Waukesha County and
Yeah, in Muskego.
Big Muskego Lake. And I understand he's a West Allis resident also, right? One of the principals in it. So he's familiar with the neighborhood and he knows what's going on.
Yep, lives down the street and is very excited. Has been looking in West Allis for a property for about 6 months to a year.
Okay. And I think that's probably about it. I will say that I did speak to one of the neighbors a block away on a different issue when we talked about this, and she was very supportive. And she's been in the neighborhood for 38 years, and she's a block away from us. I don't see her here tonight. Nope, she's not here. She said might not make it, but she did say she was very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Friend of mine,
Alderman Barzak.
2 quick questions. Looking at the picture you had from the outside, it looked like there was a double rooftop dining? They just said rooftop dining, and, there looks like there's a high one and a low one?
It's, I believe they're at the same level. It's just two different areas on the rooftop.
All right, because the one looked like it was way up on top, and then looked like there was one. Okay, so there's just one level of rooftop dining?
Yep.
All right, first question. Second one, do you know the current tax value of that property?
Its total is about, it's about $480,000.
Right now?
Yep.
And do you know what, after the improvements, I guess you said they're going to spend $1.2 million?
It's hard to say. I can't say what it would be assessed at, but yes, the project is a $1.2 million project.
You don't have that figured out, what it would be after it's completely renovated? And
I can certainly look into what the assessed value would be. I don't have that answer.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Barzak. Any other questions from the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of the audience? If there are, I'd ask you to come up to this podium here and use the microphone. And please give us your name and address for our official record, either before, and then sign in after your comments or before. I know that's a lot.
Hi there, my name is Nancy Torkey, and I own 1610 and 1612 South 81st Street. It's a church, and we do a lot of weddings and baptisms and special events and church groups and things like that. And the funeral home and myself, we had an arrangement with the parking, since I have no parking at all. I only have street parking, nothing else. And my church accommodates 125. My other building accommodates on one of the floors 75 people, but that building has 4 floors in it. In the one floor is 75 people. So I have to accommodate the weddings and church groups and all things like that, either with the help of the funeral home, which was a blessing because they let us park there as long as there was no funeral. And in the years that I've been there since 2005, now I know that they had the fire, but the time that they were in business, there's only been 3 times when I had to tell all of my guests to park on the street because of a funeral at the same time I had a wedding. So it worked out well between us. And now that the flipper person had purchased it, he decided to come in there and purchase and show up the day that he closed with the dogs and the tow trucks and scary looking dudes, and was yelling and screaming at everybody to get the you know what out of his parking lot. He threw up the signs on there that's no parking. He started charging the neighbors $65 a month to park there. My concern is if I have 200 people on the same corner of 81st and Lapham, where can we park? There's 2 sides to my story. I'm happy that a good restaurant is coming in, and I'm happy with, I think it could be a great scenario for, a wedding and then people going there to maybe have this small event like he's talking about. So I think in that respect it would work well. But I guess I'm a little bit concerned with where do my church people park, where do wedding people park, since I have street parking only on that same corner. And I hear that there's 33 stalls and he's gonna have 35 employees. So now we have employee parking as well as guest, his guest and my guest. So it's kind of a twofold. I'm really excited that he's gonna be there, but I'm also a little bit concerned. And then I had stopped into City Hall earlier today and spoke to Tony about the parking lot. There's this much space between the parking lot and my historical building that when they back out, I've been blessed all these years that nobody has bumped into my historical building. They bumped into the fence, you know, I've dealt with that each time. But now, it sounds like, what's your name? It sounds like Ryan will work with me as far as maybe putting something up so people don't run into the historical building. We chatted just a little bit. Sounds like he can't work with me on the parking lot issue, and I understand his kind of business is different than the funeral home. And I want to welcome him to the neighborhood, but I'm a little bit nervous. So that's my concerns.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that has comments or questions on these public hearing items? Come on up. And again, we ask you for your name and address.
Hi there, I'm Deb Decker, and I own a duplex at 1624 South 81st. I also live on 79th and Greenfield. So I live in the neighborhood. My concern is a lot of those neighbors that live around the duplex, including my duplex, don't have parking. And like she had stated, what are we going to do when we have a snow emergency? You can't park on 81st Street. It gets towed right away. And all you're looking at is parking on Lapham. And right now, that would be really difficult. And people ride down that street like little banshees. I have been at the duplex a lot, and there is no enforcement of the speed control. I would be worried because there's a lot of little children that live on that street, including in my duplex. And I'm just concerned with the late hours. I understand that it's a restaurant, and I'm very grateful that somebody's going in there, but are we going to have a problem with, I don't mind drinking a beer or two, but are we going to have a problem with needing more police, which I happen to sit on a meeting with you guys in regards to the police force and not being able to add any additional police, but are we going to have problems because of it? Because you have Captain Nick's, you have the Painted Parrot, you have a lot of other bars around that area, and I'm just concerned that we might not have enough force as far as, yes, they might shrink, but I don't want anybody hurt. How can we control the traffic as far as the speed and maybe the parking too? Because there's a lot of people that park around there at night, and you can only park on one side of the street. You can't park on both sides of the street. As you know, the rules of the street, you park on even nights, you park on the even side. On odd, you park on the odd. Are we going to be able to park on both sides of the street or not? Because if you're going to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning, those people that live on that street are going to want to park, and they won't be able to park. So thank you for hearing me out. And I am happy that something is going to be done. It's sad that the funeral home got burnt up, but it's nice that somebody wants to come in and refurbish it, but I'm just concerned about that. Plus, I'm also concerned about one factor, I'm sorry, is if he's going to build that for $1.5 million, what does that do to taxes for us that are owners of land around that? Does that mean that our taxes will go up? Or our values of our homes will go up? How does that work? I don't know. So I would like that explained if you could.
It'd probably be the best question to ask our city assessor, who's not here this evening, but if we can talk during recess, it's really hard to say where home values will go,
Okay.
depending on what's next door to it, but.
Well, but would that mean it would go through all of West Allis? Because I own 2 properties. I own a house and a duplex. So I would get hit twice with if you guys.
Well, there's
Right.
value, but then there's also the budgets that the 5 taxing entities put together, including the city, the county, the schools, and
Right.
we don't know what those will be, so we can't predict what the taxes will be. You know, higher value doesn't always mean that you will have higher property taxes.
Oh, but would it bring up the value of the duplex that is in that area then?
That I'd have to go to the city assessor and talk to him. If you want to talk during, when we have our recess, we can talk and I can get your info and we can
Okay.
have him reach out to you and
Okay,
just give
and
his opinion.
And I was very grateful that he talked to me prior to this meeting, because I own, I was told that retaining wall and the fence that are in that overflow lot is not mine. It is deteriorating, and it's going to take down my front lawn. It holds up the front lawn of my duplex.
Okay.
And there is no light in the back, which he explained to me. He's going to put a light in the back, which I have complained very much so about it because it is a deep lot, and there needs to be a lot of light in there just for safety purposes. I was told by somebody that I should just make sure that I have my backyard light on at the duplex to make sure that we have security. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me because anybody can get hurt. And that would be another thing is how much light is going to be around that area. I don't understand that part.
Well, the planning department works with the applicant to make sure the lighting isn't spilling over onto other properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the noise too, with it being open till the wee hours of that.
Well, I think this is a proven and established business owner in another community that has very few issues that I know of.
Okay.
And I've been there, and it's a very well-run operation, and I think that the expectation we all have is that will continue here.
Okay.
And they'll be good neighbors. I have no reason to think otherwise.
Okay.
And it'll be having responsible staff, and we know we have responsible owners, but they hire the right people, and we should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the time.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anybody else that has comments or questions on these first 2 public hearing items? Okay, seeing none, we will close our first 2 public hearings, and I will ask our clerk to read public hearings 3 and 4.
Resolution relative to determination of application for a special use permit for the Reunion Restaurant, a proposed restaurant and event facility to be located at 6610 West Greenfield Avenue, and the associated combination Class B alcohol license.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a proposal for the conversion of a former office building. It was actually originally used as Allis Chalmers payroll office, and has been many things since. This is a proposed conversion to a full-service restaurant with outdoor space and dining and game areas. The zoning of the property is M1 Manufacturing District, which does allow for restaurants as a special use. Seating for up to 224 people, including 88 outdoor seats. Hours are 10 to midnight with some occasional special events. Parking, 41 are on-site and 60 are required. They do also have access to the large parking lot to the north of the site after 4 p.m. So ample parking is available during the peak use times. This is just a view of sort of how they envision the interior of the building to look, kind of the industrial, kind of historic kind of look. The name of the restaurant that they're looking at doing is called the Reunion, and it's being proposed by Chris Paul, who currently operates the Capri restaurant at 8430 West Beloit Road. It would have a different menu than what you see at Capri. Burgers and sandwiches and things like that versus Capri, which is obviously an Italian restaurant. The floor plan that you see here, dining on the first floor, large kitchen. Some of the additional features that they are adding an elevator that you see highlighted in blue there, and then a significant porch addition between the building and Greenfield Avenue. We have up to 88 seats within it, and that would kind of well, I'll get into the remainder of the outdoor area on the next slide, but second floor area includes a game room, party room, and other uses along with that. If anybody's ever been to the kind of the Mine Shaft restaurant in Hartford, it's sort of a smaller version of that sort of concept, generally speaking. And this highlights the outdoor area. They're proposing volleyball courts on the side of the building along Greenfield Avenue, sort of sitting between the current building and the Cousins restaurant. They'd have an outdoor fire pit, and then an area for just different recreational type games like bags and games like that, and then some additional seating to go along with the volleyball and the other games that would be going on outside. They would have an outside bar, and you can kind of just see how the site flows on this. The parking would be located to the north of those things. They do have the 41 stalls on their site, plus the hundreds of additional stalls to the north of that. And that just sort of highlights that. This is a view of the things that would be added to the building. Generally, the look of the building would remain, with the addition of an elevator to sort of complement the existing building, constructed of brick, as well as a front porch addition. The applicant is working with the architect to sort of tighten up the details of what that porch would look like, but it certainly will be, the Plan Commission wanted to ensure that, it would complement the existing building itself. This is a view of one of the early renderings of that, what that front porch could look like. They're certainly playing with many different concepts in regards to that. This is a view of there will be 15-foot high volleyball netting around the Greenfield Avenue elevation, as well as the east elevation of the property line of the site that sort of borders the Cousins drive-through, obviously to ensure that the volleyballs sort of remain within the court areas. They will also have a decorative wall that leads between the building and the volleyball area, as well as along the rear of the site, which would border between the game areas and the parking area. Something similar to what you see out at the Capri restaurant today out in front is sort of the vision for that. It's just an overhead view of, sort of what that general area could look like. And again, they're working on the details of the covered porch. It likely won't look, exactly as you see on here, but you can kind of see the concept of where it would be located and the depth of it, as well as you can see the outdoor bar and another view of the, elevator addition. The site is zone M1. However, that just goes back to historic uses of the site. Staff is recommending that the site be rezoned to C3, and there is a public hearing that would be scheduled for December 17th. The rezoning is not needed to allow for the restaurant to go in. M1 does allow for restaurants. It's just more of a cleaning up the zoning issue where M1 currently goes all the way down to Greenfield Avenue. It may make some sense to rezone that area to more of a commercial zoning to fall in line with uses that might make more sense along that corridor. General project schedule, real estate scheduled to close in mid to late December. Construction scheduled to take place January 20 to June of 20. And the goal is, the hope is to open by midsummer of 2020. And the Plan Commission did recommend approval, subject to working on some of the details with the applicant, and there have been no objections received to date. And then this is just a note of the same liquor license request to exceed the quota may be needed as this goes through the process. So happy to take any questions, comments, concerns.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the Common Council on public hearings 3 or 4?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman May.
Sean, can you describe that netting for me? I mean, two things come to mind. One is like a netting that you'd see at a baseball game where you can see through easily. Another type of netting comes to mind is the kind that catches trash from a landfill. I mean, this isn't going to be that tight-knit, dark type of netting. It's going to be an open netting, like at a Brewers game?
It would be similar to that's exactly what I was going to say. It's similar to the Brewer game style netting that you often see around, different, sort of athletic activities and things like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel?
And this actually goes back to the previous agenda item number 2, and this is on the over quota part of this liquor license thing. Sean, do you know how many jobs we're talking about here in this one? Let's see, Chris is here. Okay. And again, this is a kind of an underutilized building. It's been for sale. It was the idea that you needed a 2-story building just to do payroll, at Allis Chalmers in the good old days, paper and pencil. And I think Upper Iowa University was in there most recently, but it's been sitting empty, I think, for a while. And the over quota license, to me, this project and the one with previous agenda, this is specifically the kinds of projects that we want to give over quota, that we would give over quota licenses to. New jobs, increased taxable value, new energy, economic energy for the city. That was it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Barzak.
Same questions as the previous one, just follow up like that. The one thing that you did not mention, like the previous project, was about 1.2 million they were going to invest into it. Do you have any kind of figure on this one? You did not mention anything.
Sorry about that. Yeah, this is closer to a $2 to $2.5 million project.
2.5.
Yep.
And again, the current assessed value versus what the assessed value would be after completion?
I'll have to get you that. I will get you that number.
Do you have the current, though?
I don't know it offhand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Lysak.
I'd just like to point out that the city currently owns the building, so it's not taxed.
Okay. But there's probably an assessed value, though.
Sure. Zero.
A good increment. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Vitale.
first of all, I would like to give the owner of Capri, really, he did revive 84th Street, really. He really gained so much business on that corner, it's been incredible, So to me, he's a trusted businessman. I think he'll do well in that location on 66 in Greenfield without any problems. So it's really an enhancement for an endurance for the neighborhood, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of the audience on this item or these items? Okay. Seeing none, we will close public hearings 3 and 4, and we will proceed to item E on our agendas, which is citizen participation. We can here receive information from members of the public during this 30-minute session. We again ask that you give us your name and address for our record, and we ask that you keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation, and we will move on to item F on our agendas, which will lead you to page 2 and tell you that our standing committees will be meeting during recess tonight. The room numbers are listed on page 2 of your agendas. I just want to mention one event coming up under the mayor's report this evening. The 36th annual Community Breakfast of Thanks and Giving is coming up on Monday, November 25th. Those of you that have been to this before know that this is an event that the community comes together and collects food and just kind of has a moment together before the holiday chaos begins. We do use the food collected to restock many of the food pantries in our community over the holiday season. Tickets are available here at City Hall, or I believe you can pay online on the city's website. They are $30, and it is at the Hampton Inn on 82nd and Greenfield. and it starts at 7:15 in the morning with breakfast, and there's a brief program at 8:15. And again, that's on Monday, the 25th of November. I do want to quickly mention that Hale's cross-country team took 15th in the state, and they one of their runners, who's I believe his first name is Josh, last name is Trushan, actually finished 4th in the state in the cross-country meet, so that was quite an accomplishment for the Huskies. Just want to congratulate him. That does conclude the mayor's report this evening. Are there any alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of minutes of the Common Council meeting of October 15th, 2019.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. License and Health Committee, Alderman Chaplesky. Did I skip something?
Yes.
Whoa, I skipped a whole half a page. All right, let's go back to item J. I was just testing Alderman Chaplesky. I will ask for a motion to send items 6 through 10 to the city attorney.
Second.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, we will go to standing committee reports, license and health.
Mayor Devine, I will report those out after recess.
Okay. Move to item L, a motion for reconsideration.
I move for reconsideration of item number 17.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May?
at a minimum, I'd like to change my vote on this. I also took a look at past salary increases, and I think we added much more than what the percentage increases were for our employees over that same amount of time. So I'd like to apologize.
We have to vote on reconsideration first.
We already voted to reconsider.
No.
Oh, I apologize. No discussion on the motion.
No discussion on the motion? Okay, on the motion to reconsider, so an aye would be to reconsider, a no would be to not. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
No.
May.
Aye.
Reinke.
No.
Road.
No.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Tally.
No.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
No.
Plesky.
Aye.
And Haas.
No.
6 to 4.
6 to 4, no.
Motion fails.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May?
does that mean I cannot change my vote?
It does.
Thanks, everyone. I would have voted no. Thank you.
Item M? Alderman Lysick?
Mayor Devine, I move for stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are in recess.
Meeting to order. The first thing we have is number 48, ordinance. Can you go over this one? What the purpose is and everything on this?
Sure. So number 48 it has to do with essentially redrafting how the city's lead abatement health code is going to be enforced. The current version is not very workable or functional, and so it was repealed and recreated as 7.033 because basically it would adopt all the state laws and state procedures that the city already wanted to enforce, which just clarifies what the health department's work procedures are by adopting state law.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
Kale, so this is not stricter than state law. This is just us enforcing state law.
Enforcing what we could, we already can enforce in state law, but making it enforceable in municipal court or enforceable in under
Okay.
our current employment situation here.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Then we have number 49, petition to exceed quota for the alcohol quota for Class B for Cream City Print Lounge. That's Nastasha Cole.
Is Natasha Cole here?
I am
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Come
come
on
on up.
up.
Oh, hey. You get to come up here?
Yep.
Good evening, everyone.
Now, this is something that, I heard talk of this way. You're opening up a print shop.
We've opened it already.
That's open.
Yeah, so we've come to the city council already.
And you
so.
want to serve alcohol at your print shop?
That was the beginning of it. We already.
Okay.
Mhm.
You already what?
We've already put this to the common council
Right.
already. So yeah.
Is that one of those, is that okay by the state? Because I know the state has a list that you only give liquor license to various places.
There are two possible exceptions that could apply. And so just to clarify, there's a rule about other businesses for Class Bs. So one of them would be potentially a novelty store, the other one could be a painting studio. The way that both of those places are, novelty store is not defined. Painting studio is defined in a way where it could apply. You're getting down to the very technical matter of by what is art. It's almost you're getting onto that question. So at the end of the day, if the council wants to approve or deny however it works, ultimately it's up to the licensee. Their responsibility is to make sure they comply with the other business provision. And it's not clearly prohibited by that provision. There are possible exceptions that would apply. So if the council feels comfortable proceeding with that, should do so. If the council does not want to proceed that way, go ahead. But ultimately, the only person who could face possible consequences for violating that law would be the licensee if the state or someone else came down and argued that it violated that law. The city would not have any liability no matter what.
Somebody wanted to.
Sure.
This
Was for the T-shirt company, right? Or am I?
It's an interactive retail shop. So we do
T-shirts.
apparel. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
I haven't seen an application. Was there a full liquor application in on this yet? No.
No.
No, this is just to go over quota.
This is to see if we're gonna have a public hearing about going over quota.
This is to get the public hearing going.
To get the public hearing going.
Sure.
Like
So
communication.
I'm just curious how this business is gonna work. People pay, do you only book parties or people come as individuals?
They
People
come as individuals as well.
Okay, and
So like print and sips. So we do print and sips. That's what we would like to do. But right now we're an interactive print studio. So we have our own retail line. So right now we're in full business already. We've had our soft opening. We do that already. So we have our retail line. We have our retail store, and we're an interactive print studio. So people can come in, and we have our blank apparel. They can come in and actually print from our blank apparel, and we'll teach them how to design their own apparel. So instead of just coming and saying like, we'll print you this or that, you can actually learn how to print your own and design your own. So if you go out of our website and on our Facebook, you'll see that people have already done private parties or come and do the print parties that we do already. So we do them at night. They're 2-hour parties that we already do without the alcohol. But we would like to do the print and sips.
So a print and sip, again,
A print and sip is like the paint and sip that everyone does.
yeah,
Sip and
I haven't
go.
done that. You have to
Okay,
explain
well,
it. Not everyone has done that.
And
Have you
for
done
other
it?
people too, right?
Yeah,
They
so-
don't get out much.
So that's like the big thing that like a lot of people are doing, but there's not really too many paint and sips around or print and sips around the country. There's maybe 3 or 4 in the country now, and there's none in the area. So print and sips are, you can either do a private party or you can be part of our parties. So you would, if you're doing a private party, you can submit your own design and we'll have your screens available. So maybe you can do birthday parties. Like we just had a birthday party where they submitted their own designs and then they had a party of maybe 15 people in there, and then everybody came and designed their own. So we taught them how to interactively design their own, and then everybody came out with customized shirts. So shirts and hoodies. So we have different kind of setups. So you can come out like this here, here, and you can like customize them so everybody comes out with like one of a kind shirts. And it's kind of a little fun thing to do as a family or.
So we're not really
friends.
that concerned about the printing part, it's the sipping part. People pay a flat fee to come for 2 hours, and that includes.
Depending on the apparel. that
Okay,
you get.
and now let's get back to the sipping part. Do they pay separately for alcoholic beverages, or how does that work?
It's complimentary. So complimentary includes like 1 or 2 drinks, depending on if we get this license. So-
Well, that's what
So-
the license is about. Is
Right,
about
so
is
you
about dispensing
complimentary-
alcohol. Yeah.
Right. So it's
yeah.
complimentary. We take the IDs and then you get a complimentary drink with it.
So if you come, you pay. Did you say $20 or do I have $20 in my head?
That's in your head. But
Whatever it is. So you pay a fee.
You pay a fee
And come for 2 hours.
and come for 2 hours.
And design and create your own custom shirt. And how much do you drink? You get one drink. You get one drink. And what if somebody wants another drink?
Then you can pay for another drink.
Okay, so you'll sell other drinks on
We
top
will.
of that. Okay. And this will all be laid out in their business plan, I assume, that we're gonna get if we decide to go over quota for
Correct.
this. And how many employees? are
It's
you gonna-
it's me and my co-owner.
Okay, and I think you're renting from Mike Hottinger, right?
Yes.
Okay, and if I understand correctly, you also won like a downtown West Dallas bid entrepreneur contest with this idea, but they couldn't find a spot in the downtown for you.
Correct.
And so they're kind of helping with this to move over to
Yes,
80th
sir.
and National, so, okay. So I think that's my question.
Mr. Chair? I come there and I get my T-shirt printed.
Yes.
And I get my one complimentary drink.
Yes.
And I want to have another one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have to buy that one,
You
correct?
do.
Okay, now, one isn't doing it for me. Now I want to buy 3 and 4, and guess what? There's a football game on tonight, and I want to watch that. How long can I stay there?
Until we close.
And what time is that? I don't have your hours of operation.
You can only be there for the 2-hour session because then we're gonna have another 2-hour session after that. So you gotta go.
So 2 hours max.
2 hours.
No, I get that, but what's preventing me? Why couldn't I stay there longer? Why couldn't I? You know, I would make another T-shirt.
Because we have another 2-hour session after that.
Right, but I'm gonna be in that one too.
Yeah. I
This
mean,
this
if you
could turn
signed
into a
up-
bar, is what I'm saying.
Well, we're not a bar though.
No, I know that's what we always hear. And if I remind the committee that we've turned down funeral homes for this and hairstylist places for this already in the past.
Yeah,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
And following up on what Alderman Roth is concerned about, and yeah, that was my concern too. What is, even more directly, what is in place to keep an establishment like this, once we grant the license, to becoming later on, at some point, once they have that license, a full-fledged, regular old bar? And, well, and I guess I'm looking at you, Cale. We have a business plan. If they're violating the business plan, then we have recourse to go after the owner and say you're not in compliance with your business plan. Is that correct?
The answer is simply that the council would need to enact an ordinance that allows the imposition of conditions upon alcohol licenses.
We haven't done that yet.
No.
Yeah,
I've spoken with this in the past and suggested in the past. This would be a great example of one where upon granting the license, you could place whatever conditions upon it that would satisfy your concerns. And that's really the main part of it. And for what it's worth, the other comment that Alderman Roth said, a funeral home or a hairstyling business is clearly not one of the other businesses allowed. And so that's one where it might be prohibited by state law. So I would not advise the council to grant a license for either of those establishments just because it's clearly not one of the ones allowed.
Mr. Chair?
One way.
So you're open now,
We are,
and are you making money now?
we are.
Okay, so if there was a couple of weeks, couple of month delay in the possibility of you adding liquor, you were talking about beer, wine, and liquor?
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, would that severely hurt you guys? I mean, you're looking for this as improving it makes it more of a niche business. I get that, and a draw and all that. But there's some concern on the committee here that that 2 years from now, this isn't what we thought it was gonna be, and it isn't even what you thought it was gonna be. And we wanna be able to make sure that, and I'd sponsor an ordinance to enable the council to, but so that I think you hear the concern here, is that you're sitting here telling us it's gonna be one thing, but until we have the ability to make sure that it is that thing, that there may be some reticence. for
I
us to
hear
grant-
you,
yeah.
but I also would encourage you to look into the many patent steps that are out there. I mean, this model
There's one in the
is,
Tosa Village, I think, right?
yeah, this model is everywhere now. I mean, it's kind of blown up. And we are just taking that model and putting it into a print and sip. And this is not turned into like a bar atmosphere at all. It's,
See, the thing about it could. Let's say the printing thing, let's say that it doesn't take off. And business isn't that good, so you start having people just coming in just to drink and stuff, just trying to pay your bills. That's what we're concerned about.
however,
You know.
we have done retail for over 10 years. So that's not something that we are moving to just
Right.
go right into bar and we're
Right.
just going to do that. So
It could become widely successful. You could franchise this and have 3 more of these open in a year and have someone else running this location. And we granted this license on your word, and you could have a manager or a different owner, operator in there. Okay. You understand?
I understand your concern.
What I'm saying
but
is, we're gonna, as expeditiously as we can, enable ourselves to make sure that your business stays what you say it's gonna be.
Sure, and I understand that, and I get the adding the extra, whatever you're talking about, adding that extra part of it. But our main part of this is print.
Right.
So
Yes,
Right.
and we hear you saying that.
Yeah, we aren't doubting you.
okay,
We are doubting other people that would come along. And
People,
All right.
try and do
people
something
come in front of us and say all kinds of things that don't work out.
okay.
Okay, but the thing about it is that we could still approve this to move on. It's just a matter of scheduling when we're gonna schedule the public hearing, correct?
Yes.
And,
Mr. Chair, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was about to move approval, but.
no, I just say, you had something on the fees? You had a question on the fees?
Yes, because of the condition of the contest, you had requested that the $100 fee be waived.
Sure.
The fee we charge for the public
Mhm.
hearing. So that's another part of the request.
But who, you won that, you won it from the downtown?
Yes.
Are they gonna pay the money? Where's, the downtown's giving away our fees?
I'm not aware of what this contest is or what the condition and terms of it were, but I would highly recommend that the council not issue any type of specific fee waiver for any license. That would be very unusual. So if someone wants to come up with money to.
Well, this isn't for the license, this is for the public hearing?
Or any portion of
Okay.
the actual hard cost the city incurs for licensure. I think whoever awarded this money, I'm hoping and assuming would have the funding to cover the cost.
Mr. Chair?
This,
Sounds like
okay, okay.
The director is here, she's.
Director, she says.
That's what I was gonna say.
You got more? So this here has nothing to do with the funding. This motion will be.
I move approval.
Second.
Mr. Chair?
Further discussion, Alderman May.
So the two items that were before us this evening were both claiming that they're going to be item, license number 120 out of 120, which means we already have one that's already over quota as well. And in the past, going to Alderman Barzak's idea is usually it has to be something that brings additional employment, additional tax base, those sorts of things to the city. I don't know that this does that. And I love the model. I'd probably go there with my wife and some friends. That being said, I don't think that fits what we've been saying we're willing to go over quota for. And so that's my concern with this. We're going to open it up to a public hearing, which is great, but in the end, why have them spend $100 if, I don't know if we're comfortable with it or not as a whole council, but I don't know if I'm comfortable going over quota for this.
Okay, first of all, I gotta say that Alderman Barzak said that, I still don't agree with that, like I've said it in the past, because what that does is kind of shuns the small business. It's like an anti-small business thing. When you say, well, you gotta spend all the money and bring all these people in, otherwise we can't give you a license over a quota. I disagree with that. I think that if it's a endeavor that we figure is going to help our community, or something unique for our community, I think we can do it. I'm not saying I'm totally gonna be in favor, but I'm just saying that I, differ to you on that issue, so.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Wyden.
And I'm gonna say I would agree with you 100% on that, but I also want us to have the ability to
Right.
keep it what she's promising it's gonna be.
Right.
So,
So this, the vote and the motion is to move it ahead for the public hearing.
I do have one more question if I could,
Alderman
Mr.
May.
Chair. So when people make a license application, how long could that application sit in queue to wait for a license to become open?
As long as it's a new license application, I have yet to find any requirement that the council act on it within a certain period of time.
So hypothetically, a person can make an application, and in 3 or 4 months, if one opens up, we could just make a first in, first out rule where, suddenly we're one below quota, you're the next in line as the applicant.
I mean, theoretically, I think the only limitation on that is you obviously have to apply for a specific year. And so,
location.
Specific year and location. And so you would need to maintain then the availability of that location. And if 1 year would pass, you have to then reapply.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Wyden.
I just wanna make sure that this public hearing does not have to get scheduled before we get this enabling ordinance enacted.
You schedule public hearings.
Typically, and when we get these things approved, it's usually the next available one, which will be December 3rd.
But we'll have to
But
have
if
this.
you can make it as part of a condition of your motion that you hold off to a specific date to direct me to do that.
Is that
Well, we don't know how
Hold
long
legal
it's
I don't
gonna
know what the
take.
date's gonna be.
So the most important thing is that if the council wants to impose a condition, that ordinance simply has to be passed prior to granting this one. So it has to be passed and effective, which means that you have to pass the ordinance at one meeting, and then the subsequent meeting is when you'd approve the license with the conditions, because at that point it'd be effective. Because it's not effective the day of passage, it's effective the day of publication. So that'd be a 1 meeting delay between enacting the
Right.
ordinance and approving this license.
So we could have the public hearing
Certainly.
as soon as possible.
Right.
As well
And
as
that would tell them whether the neighbors are okay with it and the entire council's okay with it.
Mr. Chair, in addition to that, as Cale said, you could get the license, it can be on the agenda, and you can hold off action on that
Mhm.
license as well.
So,
Okay.
So I think maybe we, Mr. Chair, if I could
Go ahead.
continue. I think maybe we should schedule this public hearing soon, or as soon as it fits in the schedule. And that way, the applicant will know whether the council is willing to grant an overall license.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman May.
I thought if a person made an application that they were held to the rules that were in place at the time of application, not at the time that it's granted. So for example, like for property, right? I mean, someone wants to open up a concrete plant and makes an application, and then in between, the city changes the law and says, no, you can't have. So if the application is already made, are they subject to whatever new ordinance we would have, or the ordinances we have now?
It's all about when does property rights attach.
Right. So it's with the license on this case.
When a license is, when you apply for a license, you don't have a right at that time. Your
Mhm.
rights attach at the moment the council grants the license.
Okay.
However, if you're gonna do redevelopment or something, there are cases out there saying your rights attach the day you get a permit,
Mhm.
before you've constructed anything. So that's the difference in those two timelines.
You have a certain property right with the property when you got it. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Good job, Kate.
Never knew that.
Do you understand what's going on?
No.
No. So, we're only 5 members of the council, and we haven't seen your application yet, but we're, I don't know, if nervous is the right word, we wanna make sure that what you say you're gonna do is what
Sure.
ends up being done. We don't really have the full ability to manage that at this point. We're gonna go forward with the public hearing on whether the full council and your neighbors, they'll be invited to chime in, on whether they think that your business should get a liquor license.
Okay.
And at that point, you'll know, we're still gonna do that legislation that's gonna let us manage all liquor licenses a little bit better going forward. So this may delay your thing a little bit, but there's still no promise that you're gonna get a license. You understand that?
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, then we have number 50, these are various license and application.
Second.
You said that?
How does it do that?
Second, Rhodes seconded?
Yes.
Is there any further
Way
discussion on
down
these?
here on the north
All in
end.
favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 51 is a second dealer's license, 112784.
What building is that?
Get to the picture.
11, see, this would be on the west side of the street.
Yeah,
I don't know.
faces the Fair Park on 84th Street.
Well,
Oh, is that that little hair dog trimming place?
There's a nail salon in there, I thought.
Just sure the applicant's here if you wanted to ask him.
Oh.
Who is he?
Ollie, what building are you going into?
Me?
Yeah.
It's 11.
Yeah, I got the address, but what was there before?
I think it was beauties for like
Beauty
plus-size
parlor?
women. Maybe,
Oh.
I don't know if you have me mixed up with the other person. 1141 South 72nd Street is that.
Oh.
It's called, the business is called All Goods.
That's
Okay.
not the address we have.
Yeah, we
No.
got 1127.
We're looking for,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's my home address. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
Okay.
I know where you
Well,
live, and I'm like,
it says
is he gonna do this out of his
For
house?
premises at 1127.
Okay.
So it's probably a typo here. So, yeah,
So what's the address?
1411. The license premise is
Okay.
1411.
Oh, it's oh, okay.
I'll just leave it.
Can we act on this because it's not noticed, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, I think that's a legal problem,
It's a
unfortunately.
completely, I mean, that's.
Not yours.
That's more than just a typo.
Ours.
That's a completely different address. Nobody
Oh, is it all the people looking?
has notice of.
So what is
of
the
where it
address?
Could be someone living on 72nd Street.
1411.
1411.
South 72nd.
Yeah, 72nd right off Greenfield.
It's likely from the application.
Okay.
I do want to say
Well, it's a
that
different district, too.
I am scheduled to open, or like,
Yes, he has everything scheduled for opening and everything, and this is, it's technically our mistake.
Yeah, well.
Are there
wait,
temporary?
tell me the address again.
no, I'm sorry.
Where's the business gonna be?
14
It's gonna be right across.
1411
South 72nd.
Across from Laughing Grass.
It is.
A half a block off of Greenfield,
Right
on the
next
west side of the street.
Right,
On
in
72nd.
downtown.
2 blocks from my house. I didn't get a notice.
Awesome, yeah.
Well, and this isn't a zoning issue.
No,
This
no,
is
no,
a
okay,
license
no,
issue.
no.
There wouldn't be a notice.
Okay, I'll,
Give me one moment, let me take a look at
okay.
state law on this. If you don't mind holding it for just a second.
Good to see you.
Oh, there.
Yeah. A Perfect Plus Boutique is what was there.
That is correct, yeah. And then I think there was like a photo studio after that,
Yeah.
maybe, not sure.
Can't
Somebody
picture
did
it.
knock on the door and ask for a photo studio though.
My internet is now down, so I'm trying my phone.
Why is this not coming up?
Missing behind staff one.
So, see, the problem here is because it was noticed and it's in the agenda and everything at this address, if somebody was to be opposed to it
Right,
at that address, they didn't know that it's even gonna be there.
right.
So we're just checking with the city attorney on how we can work this out.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Rowe.
you live at 1127 South 84th?
I do, yes.
Okay, that's your home. Thank you.
For any type of provisional license or anything like that.
Pardon me?
I'm looking for any type of provisional license because state law on public notice for meetings does require that the public be reasonably apprised of
Right.
what's going on. Given that location is one of the few facts that's included in the notice, it would be very important for that to be
I
accurate.
agree.
So
Do
I'm
we have
looking
such
for
a
any-
thing as a temporary?
I'm looking for it right now.
Oh,
And
thought
Mr.
maybe
Chair,
you would.
While you have it, what kind of business, it's not a pawn shop?
No, absolutely not. It's more of a vintage specialty type of store, nostalgic items. If you could think of like tour T-shirts from the '80s.
Is that clothing?
There are some clothing.
Not exclusively clothing.
Not
The
exclusively
80s is
clothing, a lot of-
nostalgic?
Yeah, vintage from the 80s.
If you think the '90s is actually 30 years ago already almost.
Isn't that
so,
crazy?
So stuff like that. If you think about like Mickey Mouse and you think about like Bart Simpson
guess I'm
and stuff like
nostalgic.
that, and sports teams too. I got a lot of Packers stuff and Bucks and Brewers stuff that's vintage that they consider vintage, but
And you're required to use the Nooper system, right, when you buy things from customers you're familiar with all,
I
right?
was, yep, I was
Okay.
notified of that, although I'm not going to be purchasing in store from people.
Oh, okay.
it's
So
not
you have
gonna
other
be-
sources you
I
buy.
do,
Yeah.
yeah. And I already have an established online business that with, I have close to 3,000 items, so I had to move out of the house and expand the business because it was a successful business for the past 5 years online.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Which other way?
It's a shall issue license if the applicant's qualified, but this is just a notice issue now. I can't
So-
find anything that would allow
A temporary?
a temporary.
So, Mr. Chair,
Alderman May.
what you're saying is it's something that we'd be compelled to give unless there was some other reason, but because of the notification, we have to.
Correct.
And when is your,
Well, it's my birthday Friday.
This
30
Friday.
35 years old, so I was having like a family and friends kind of soft opening, and then I've been advertising this Saturday as being the opening, and due to the fact that I didn't know, because I wasn't buying items from people coming in, I didn't know if I needed a secondhand license, because I'm actually not purchasing like Record Head is, or
Right.
Pawn America or something
So
like
why
that.
does he even need a secondhand license?
According to the code, it says purchasing or selling. Or.
When I read it, I
Well,
thought
he-
it said buying and selling, so buying and then selling what I bought. I thought that's why, I know I talked to you, but I was like, since I'm not. gonna be
Mr. Chair, if I
buying-
could,
Sorry.
Alderman
I
May.
thought the secondhand license allowed him to buy things in his store from people who brought things into his store.
I think that was the intention. But the code says buying or selling.
You're saying that any clothing store that needs a secondhand dealer's license?
If
Because
you're selling a
unless they're
second-
making the clothes themselves.
No.
Because they're buying it somewhere.
I thought about that too. It's
Yeah.
like you can get it from.
Okay, one
sorry.
second.
So all a secondhand article dealer is anyone who engages in the business of purchasing or selling secondhand articles. And there's a few exceptions, but a secondhand articles is basically anything that has been pre-owned.
Well, everything's pre-owned. It's owned by the wholesaler you bought it from.
So, no, pre-owned meaning used at retail, sold at retail on a prior date.
We gotta work this out.
Yeah.
Consumer.
Um,
Well, I guess, yeah, the distinction is, if this was a zoning issue, then definitely we could not proceed. This is a license issue, which is something
Well,
different than a zoning issue.
But
And I'm trying to find a way to finagle to say
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
The hard part is it's almost not even a licensing issue, it's a public notice issue, really, is the
Right.
problem.
Could you notice it or list it as a typo, Gail?
If
I mean,
if
that
everyone's
address
like,
is so
we
far
misspelled
off.
his name, yes, but
It's so
we
far off.
specifically identified a separate address.
You can tell which way we want to go.
Yeah.
Now we're caught in the
We're really glad we had a
technicality.
lawyer
Just to
before.
also let you know the financial, like,
You can have a license to
Burden.
operate out of your home.
The financial burden, a lot of money and time that was put in.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
it'd be
tried
a-
to do it on short notice because
That's why
I
we're
wanted-
trying to get to
Yeah,
a
we're
yes
trying,
here.
we're trying to get to yes.
It's important that I'm successful in West Allis
Yeah.
and like get off on the right foot
Yeah.
and waiting an additional week or.
It would be
month.
2 weeks. It would be the next council meeting.
And there's gonna be people showing up on Saturday, for sure. This is,
Well.
and Friday night as well.
Hmm.
If there is any way for a temporary thing, that's okay with me, absolutely. Even if you would consider, like, I guess would be up there, but, you know.
Yeah.
I understand, I'm a small business person. Right now, all the money's going into fixing the place up and getting this stuff there, and no money's walking through the door. So I understand it fully. There's gotta be a way.
Even if I just withdraw my concern and I think we can just go ahead and
Well, I
act.
can't think we, I don't think we can just turn our
Head on
our head.
the law and the important issues of public notice for open meetings.
How far away is the actual place?
It's not close.
12 mile.
Yeah, it's under a mile.
Get there in 3
Because-
minutes.
It is noticed for approval at that address, so you could approve the sales from that address. And then from your new location, you could send people to your home.
That's not gonna.
I'm trying to think of a way to make the transaction occur at your
He's already
house.
got the stuff
Right.
there.
It could be at the store.
Can you,
This is the Cheers episode where they
Would-
lost their liquor license and they
Right.
sold non-alcoholic beer
Um,
and people got drunk.
Okay.
And then would there be, if, let's say you do that, right? Because I'm used to doing everything online. I could have somebody process transactions at my house or something, right? But,
You can just pick up at the store?
would you be able to then, get
Yeah.
it corrected, obviously, because.
transfer the license
With the
over at the
notice.
next meeting?
Right,
That's where I'm leaning now, but I'm trying to think of a way to make this work.
because eventually, I want to be operating,
And I'm sort of coming up with this on the fly, so.
Right.
Probably open. I mean, I know you. I know you're a good business person. You're a good character. And
Okay.
It's definitely gonna be an asset, like, for the city, bringing people into downtown,
Yeah.
West Allis, from downtown West Allis.
Right.
Really, like, see that.
Yeah.
Alderman Shaplesky, he would like to see the application.
Ms. Grill had a good point. We're gonna be meeting Tuesday for a budget hearing. We can put this on the agenda with the correct address for Tuesday.
The next Tuesday?
Yeah, that doesn't help for
Too late.
Said
this
that's
weekend.
for Saturday.
That would be the soonest if we can't.
Or just have a special before, sometime this week.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with a quick special meeting
We have
too.
a special meeting this Thursday?
That was what Ms. Grill really said, and then I misinterpreted it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Glad this is on there.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to do a special meeting sometime this week.
Thank you very
Come
much.
to
I
the
really
map.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Does he just need the license from the committee, or
Okay.
does he need the whole council?
You need the whole council, but there need to be 7 people present for it, so if you get 7 to show up on Thursday, that's good enough.
And which day?
Thursday. Well, what,
Anytime before.
Thursday works.
What time?
well, you wouldn't need to be here.
Could be tomorrow night though, because we wouldn't have 24 hours. Unless
Yeah,
it
it
was
can't be
at-
tomorrow.
Unless it was at 9 o'clock and Steve gets a notice how it may
Okay, so
Do we need a couple
Thursday,
days
As soon as we can
to-
do it.
24 hours.
And.
24 only? Oh.
We're gonna need 7 people here. So if we got the committee, we need 2 other people.
And the council president has to okay the special meeting.
And we usually charge a fee for that, but we're gonna waive that fee.
There will waive that, yeah.
Okay.
We'll charge the clerk's office.
So let's,
Yeah, I think it's our
let's-
error. We're not going to
let's-
charge
let's
for a
plan-
special meeting.
Let's plan a meeting then. Let's make sure we have a couple other people here.
I can make it
Okay.
Thursday.
What day?
So it'll be a committee meeting?
Thursday.
And then we have to have a council meeting after that?
Yeah.
The committee is charged with this, but frankly, if you wanted right now, you could refer this matter back to, well, actually, it's gonna be a brand new item now, because it wouldn't be
Different
application.
Yeah.
addressed. So you'd be published, and the committee could just meet all 7 people in one room, 5 of you could act on it and then immediately have a council meeting right after that, act on it. You could do it from inside the chambers if you wanted to.
30-second council meeting.
Okay.
Hmm?
This Thursday, what time?
6 p.m.?
6 works.
Okay? 6 okay for everybody here? Okay. Schedule it, and that's when we'll do it.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Would I need to attend that or anything?
You don't
You don't have to.
Thank you very much.
You're more than
You have to
welcome.
pick up your,
To finalize this one, I would move to postpone indefinitely on this one, just to end this item.
Put it on file.
Just place it on file?
However, yeah, whatever you'd like.
For
Okay, do I have a motion to place this on file?
So moved.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, we're going to be able to still waive the fee then on the next application that he's going to make if we put this one on file?
As that is a fee that is imposed outside of state licensing, it's a
We can do
locally
that.
imposed fee, then it'd be local.
Okay, good, because I would hope we would do that.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Wow.
Motion carries, yes. Motion to.
This evening's full of all
Move
sorts of
adjourn.
fun stuff.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And I don't know why.
Okay. All right, the Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. All 5 members are present. Starting on our agenda with item 18, an ordinance creating section 5.
move approval.
Alderman Weigel. Is there a second?
Number,
Number 18.
yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would ask if the chief would come up, because I think he had a couple of quick amendments he was interested in making.
Sure.
Good evening. So what you have before you is a proposal to amend the fire prevention code for the city to include the allowance for us to charge for businesses that have multiple false fire alarms every year. It's become a growing problem in our city in the past 10 years or so. They've more than doubled. Also, given the budgetary concerns of the city, this is a way to help offset a little bit of the revenue. I know some of you have businesses in your various districts that may be affected, so I did print out.
You got the frequent flyer list?
Yes. So this is 2018 data. This is everybody that had more than one false alarm. The proposed ordinance in front of you would bill at 3 and higher, so I tried to group them together, so whenever you see more than 3 in one area there, that.
Well, we're supposed to, we don't have names on it.
So the initial proposal in front of you, there was one concern that was brought up, and that is particular to residential facilities like Village at Manor Park. There's a lot of like burnt toast and things like that as well, the fire alarm system there. So I do have a proposed amendment to what you have in front of you, which would be, I should have printed one for everybody, would be adding a paragraph number 4 at the end. So if it's a residential facility, the fee would be assessed based on the apartment number and not the base address. So if the same person burns food multiple times a year, that would create a fee. But if if this person burns food and then the neighbor burns food and the third neighbor burns food, nobody's getting a bill there. But if the same person repeatedly is doing something that causes that alarm to go off, then the fee could be assessed.
Okay. I can see the Village of Manor Park is gonna be rewriting their residential
Well,
contracts.
so in 2018, there were only a handful that had multiple repeat apartment numbers at Village of Manor Park. So it's not very
No,
normal. for
not
us.
just them, I'm talking about.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
The police department has it for false alarms already.
Correct.
They already have it, so this isn't really out of the ordinary.
Nope, nothing new as far as the city's concerned. And then I know Alderman Weigel always asks what our neighbors do. This is a breakout of fees of our neighboring
I'll get you off.
departments.
Ready to go, Mason. Thank you.
So we could go a lot more strict if you want to.
River Hills,
Copy
$1,000
River Hills if you want to.
for
For
the
the
first
first
one.
one.
They got the.
River Hills has,
They don't have, it's all residential.
it's all residential.
And they can afford it.
And they can afford it. Yeah, that's odd that the same, served by the same fire department.
Yeah.
But having different schedules. The
Yep.
North Shore Fire Department and the North Shore suburbs are all different.
And what are we gonna do?
So what do we need?
So the proposal before you is to bill $200 flat fee for the third and subsequent alarms throughout the year, based on a calendar year.
Mr. Chair?
All right, so, yes, Alderman Weigel.
So I see our one and only hotel on here.
Yep. So they have had an issue. They've gotten better lately.
Well, yeah, a major hotel.
But when they first opened, they had an issue with whoever designed their system put the smoke alarms too close to the bathroom. So whenever a guest would have a steamy shower and open that door, the steam would roll out and set up the smoke alarm. They have since, from what I understand, changed out their smoke alarms to a different style, and they have had not as many issues, but it still happens from time to time. We'd also plan to reach out to some of the heaviest hitters on here and give them a heads up so they can come out of left field.
Yeah, I see my neighbors across the street are on here too.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Chalupski. Yeah.
make a motion
Yeah.
to approve it as amended.
And, well, we need to accept the amendment.
You want
Well, we can just do it as amended, as long as we all understand
We
what's
have an
going on here.
Right.
And we agree, but, and Alderman Rote, you had a concern?
No, I just wanted to
Need a second.
Yeah.
kind of, so you had mentioned Hampton Inn already, and we had talked at length that it's address specific.
Correct.
Do you need a second? I'll second.
And I think at,
Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman Rote.
yeah, I'm sorry, was I interrupting?
We didn't have a second yet, but go ahead. We got it now.
That there were only 2 addresses at Village at Manor Park that were repeat offender, 2 or 3, correct? It was a very small amount.
Yeah, out of the, I think there's 4 or 5 base addresses that are Village at Manor Park related on this list. And just going through those 4 or 5, there were only, I think, 2 or 3 times where I saw the same apartment listed multiple times.
And it was
only twice, it was never that third time.
calendar year, and it resets
January 1
every year. And I think one of the big offenders or whatever was the hospital, you said. That
Hospital
was
one of the
very
bigger
interesting.
ones. We go there
West
quite
Dallas
often for
Memorial.
false alarms.
And I see 7525 West Greenfield's on here.
Yeah.
Government buildings are, or city-owned buildings are exempt, unless you wanted to change that.
We did have a toaster issue.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman May.
I did have a question raised to me. So for example, I see Central on here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 alarm pulls in 2008. Looks like Lane had 3 that year. And so a question had raised to me, are we really going to charge the schools for these things? And my counter to that was, well, when I went to Marquette, there was an issue every Friday and Saturday night in one of the dorms. Someone would pull the alarm 2, 3 in the morning when it was happening around that time of day. And so what
That's actually time of night.
I think that might be when Milwaukee, well, they don't have a fee. I thought they had instituted a fee at that point. But what Marquette ended up doing is they put the plastic covers over and they put a powder on the alarm so that if there was a pull, as they're leading people back in, they put their hands in through the black light, and that's how you'd catch it. So the question is should we be also including the schools? I thought that was pretty smart. Should we also be including the schools or not? To me, I think it would be, if it becomes a problem at a school, it would get the school district perhaps to implement that sort of technology. So that was a question raised to me. What do you guys think?
I think the answer is yes, include them, and then we can address it later if there's a problem.
Okay.
And we can, if the school district says, hey, this is unfair to us, we can have a discussion where we can
Work with
action
them.
remove them.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, so we have a motion as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mason.
Thank you.
And then we have a number of bonding items. Item 19, $2.5 million general obligation bonds.
Move approval.
Motion from Alderman Weigel,
Second.
second from Alderman Chapleski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
We just do all these.
And
Can we
Yeah.
do 20 through 22?
yes,
I'll
thank
I'll
you.
make the motion for 20 through 22
20 through 22.
Second.
for approval.
For approval.
And a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 23, resolution directing publication of notice to electors.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Alderman May, second from Alderman Weigel. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Move approval on number 24.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 25, buying 2 unmarked squad cars.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion from Alderman Weigel, second from Alderman Chapleski. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Like that discount.
Item 26, a resolution of the 2020 schedule of fees.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 27, CIVMIC for workers' comp.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 28, the agreement with the Village of West Milwaukee for health services.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 29, Village of West Milwaukee for IT services.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Getting near the end. Item 30,
Move
city
approval.
policy procedures. Thank you. Is there a second? I second. And any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye. Oh! Sorry, Alderman Rote, didn't mean
It's
to
okay.
cut you off. And item 31, resolution to amend policy procedures regarding holidays.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, it just looked like we took out holiday names and added official dates. Is that correct?
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
then- And just determined essentially specifically what's gonna happen around December 24th and 25th when, to ensure 4-day work weeks
Mhm.
around it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And item 32.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
We're gonna be in third place on this loan, just so the committee knows about that.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, is the seller here by any chance? I don't know why the seller can't help out with the financing a little bit.
Mr. Chair?
That's just that's just a comment.
Yeah, and Alderman May.
I believe CDBG loans are federal loans, and these are made specifically for high risk, so that if they go in default, the city and its taxpayers aren't impacted. The idea is to help encourage development in areas that development may not
Right, but
otherwise occur.
And Mr. Chair, the CBDG money is taxpayer money as well.
It's federal money, yep.
It's, well, yeah.
Given specifically for high risk investments. That's sort of what it's for.
Not technically, but the impression is that it's financing that could not otherwise be obtained through private means. would be the-
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And that passes.
Not high risk, economically challenged areas.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for also.
Yeah.
Item 33, resolution for city policies and procedures.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 34.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
what's driving this? I mean, I read it, but why do we need a policy on it?
Answer that one. So essentially for the city to be able to accept funding from someone who wants to sponsor a city event, or for the city to provide any type of support for an event that it wants to sponsor, a good policy should be in place like this, because Otherwise, there might be accusations of First Amendment violations.
Okay, gotcha.
And so having the policy in place ensures the council's adopting the message of not only the sponsor that sponsors the city, but whatever organization the city may choose to sponsor. And by doing so, you avoid First Amendment issues because it becomes a government speech and then falls entirely outside of that body of jurisprudence.
Mr. Chair.
Got it.
Ms. Grill?
It will also supplement our budget for the event, so that's why it's important going forward, because we put on a lot of events that we would like to have sponsors for, which we currently don't.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And item 35, can I have a motion to place on file?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anything else properly come before the committee? Can I have a motion
Move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
We will call the common council back to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Ranky.
Here.
Rote. Here. Stefanski.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak. Plesky. Here. Haas.
Here.
That's 10 present.
A quorum is present. We will now
Excuse me.
have the Administration and Finance Committee results presented by Alderman Haas.
Mayor Devine, the Administration and Finance Committee met and acted on the following items. Item 18 was passed as amended. 19 through 29 were all adopted. 31 and 33 and 34 were adopted, and 35 was placed on file. I move for approval of this portion of the Administration and Finance Committee report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
And item 30 was adopted by a vote of 4 in favor, 1 opposed. I move for approval of item 30.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
No.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
No.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
No.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
No.
Aye.
Shaplesky. And Haas.
Aye.
That's 6 yeses and 4 noes.
Motion carries.
And item 32 was approved by a vote of 4 in favor, 1 opposed. I move for approval of item 32.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
No.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
That's 9 yeses and 1 no.
Motion carries.
And that is all, Mayor Devine.
Thank you. Next up, we will have the Public Works Committee. Alderman Barzak.
Mayor Devine. I would like to bring your attention to items number 36 through 39 on tonight's agenda. 36 through 38 are resolutions that were adopted by the committee, and 39 is a communication that was placed on file moved by all 5 members of the committee. I move for adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have the Safety and Development Committee. Alderman Lysick.
I refer you to items 40, 42, 43, 44, which is going to be for approval as amended, a minor amendment. 45, 46, also to be approved as amended, another housekeeping amendment on it, and 47 to be placed on file. All acted upon favorably by all 5 members of the committee. I move for adoption of the committee report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Rote.
That was withdrawn. I thought I don't know.
43 is just to be placed on file.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No discussion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky. And Haas.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, License and Health Committee, Alderman Shaplesky. Yeah, I saw that.
I'd like to report on items number 11 through 15, 48, 50, and 51 on tonight's agenda. These are various license. Board for approval. and number 48 is an ordinance, and number 15 was voted to deny. I'd like to move for approval of this portion of the committee's agenda.
Second. It's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Vogt.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
Then we have item number 16. This is a petition to go over quota for the bar, 1900 South 60th. It was voted 4-1 to deny. I'd like to move for the adoption of this portion of the committee's report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Just a reminder that the motion is to deny, so an aye vote is to deny and a no vote is an aye vote.
A no vote is an aye vote.
The motion is to deny. Just making you all think and making sure you're all still awake. Alderman Vitale.
You know, I understand the 1900 block South 60th have been, you know, in the past, a issue, you know, with the people, the licensee holders, you know, I mean, they've been a little bit unresponsible, you know. But the more I drive by there and I see that building, you know, it's more or less like a more of a torn World War II structures, you know. So I don't know what the alternative would be for that corner, you know. So if this man is a new man, you know, that I believe that he applied for, he has a lot of experience in running. I think he knows about running restaurants, but at this point, that's a bar. But I wonder if in the future, if he thinks to turn the locations as maybe some part of restaurants, you know. So the fact is that why are we going to keep through this applicant, you know? We don't know at this point. He seems like he's a reliable person, you know, very responsible, and he knows how to run a business. I mean, so if we keep throwing those people out, what be the outcome of that building there, you know? I mean, it's another question. So, I mean, I'm not a bar. I mean, I don't love bars, you know. Back years ago, I mean, I never really been a heavy drinker, but still, like, occasionally I used to stop at the bars, you know. So if again, if this man would be a logical individual, a responsible individual, I mean, we keep deny that corner. I mean, what the outcome will be there, really? So a solution is going to come in time, you know, that if you sell the building, maybe I hope somebody else will come and open up a grand ball, you know, maybe with some food and dancing, whatever the outcome will be. But for denying him the chance to open up this place, I mean, of course, it's up to us, you know, up to the council to make determinations, the fact that if you want a bar there at this time, you know, so that's up to the council to vote on it, yes or no.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other discussion? Just a reminder again that the motion is to deny. If there's no other discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
No.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
No.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shaplesky.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 8 yeses and 2 noes.
Motion carries.
Okay, then we have item number 49. This is another petition to go over quota for Cream City Print Lounge on National Avenue. It was voted 4-1 for approval. I'd like to move for the remainder of the committee's report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Approval to what?
Basically, it's an approval to go to a public hearing to go over quota. So all this approval does is, I mean, it goes to public hearing. This is not a vote whether they
To
get the
hold
license
a
or not.
public hearing?
Yeah.
I see, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Weigel?
also by point of reference, this applicant has kind of a specialty business model where they're mixing custom apparel printing with alcohol beverage consumption, and that's the model that they're presenting to us. We are waiting until, the committee discussion was, we're going to wait to approve their license until we have a better mechanism, which we hope to enact soon, to ensure that they follow the business model as presented. We're going to have staff working on an enacting ordinance that would enact the ability for us to make liquor establishments adhere more closely to their business plan. In the event that they deviate too far from their written plan, that we could revoke their license. So since we don't have that authority yet, we will likely be holding action on this. We still want to proceed with the public hearing so we can get a sense of the neighbors and the council of whether this business as presented would warrant an overquota license. But what we had said was we weren't going to enact it or authorize the license until we had the approval to more closely regulate the license.
Clear? Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
No.
Stefanski.
No.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
No.
Jablonski.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 7 yeses and 3 nos.
Motion carries. Thank you. And we will conclude our evening with the advisory committee. Alderperson Reinke.
Yes. Mayor Devine. We had a busy night, Mayor Devine. I direct the council's attention to items number 52 through number 62 on tonight's agenda. We acted on 2 ordinances, 2 resolutions, 2 communications, several appointments, and 2 reappointments. They all were approved by the committee, and I move for their approval, Mayor Devine.
So move. Or second, I mean, sorry.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, Mayor Devine,
May.
I believe number 62 is going to be held, correct? That was the one with the polling places?
That was just a communication. We had a small discussion regarding it.
We're going to meet on Thursday regarding it as well. So that's going to be held? Correct.
It was just a communication.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Lysick.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Jablonski.
Aye.
And Haas.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Say Thursday, right?
Thursday. Next scheduled meeting is Thursday.
Oh, we have a
Special.
meeting at 6 o'clock. Excuse me. Adjourn until our next special meeting, Thursday, November 7th at 6 p.m.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.